Now, with Herpa still being our only narrow-body supplier in Scale 500, there are just some airlines and aircraft combinations that, well, we will just not see realized from them. So for those models, custom models are the way to go. And that's also the case with this model that I picked up at the last Amsterdam fair earlier this year. With that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at an Airbus A320-200 of Air Cairo. And at the front of the box we have a cutout so we can get a glimpse of the aircraft model inside. And then TWC Customs, who has made this model for me, has modified the box a little bit. So we have the Air Cairo branding here on the top of the box. But of course, this is based around a Herpa Wings box. So it is limited how much you can do, but he has actually tried to do as much as possible. And I do appreciate the effort. And here she is, the Airbus A320-200 in the standard livery of Air Cairo. Now, the airframe started its life with a fairly obscure Italian airline called Ernest Air, and around 2020 it then moved over to Air Cairo. Maybe not less obscure for many of my viewers, but Air Cairo is, Egyptian charter airline, which we actually do see at more and more airports around Europe. And they do, of course, also get noticed, especially when the aircraft have been applied with the full Air Cairo livery, this very bright and colorful livery that we see here. But how has TWC Customs done with this aircraft model, creating this Scale 500 version of it for us, based, of course, on a Herpa Wings donor model? Well, let's find out. On the tail section, here we find this lovely purple color that he has applied, and on top of that we of course then have the Air Cairo branding. Also notice the lovely detailing we get here on the horizontal stabilizer. On the fuselage, we then, apart from the lovely color scheme of Air Cairo, then of course find the web address of the airline. We have the Egyptian flag, we have the aircraft type specification, we have the full registration code of the aircraft, and also notice this little red marking around one of the cabin windows. Really lovely amount of detailing here with the decals used. We do also, towards the very tail of the aircraft, find a bit of detailing around the APU exhaust. And we also have plenty of detailing when we look at the front of the aircraft, where we across the fuselage, of course, first find the Air Cairo branding, but then also again notice here the amount of hatches, small sensors or static ports. That is really quite lovely, and I do hope that this will be the amount of details, or at least the amount of details we will see once either model next year joins in with some narrow-body aircraft models, but we will see that in the future. We focus on this for now because here we can move on to the cockpit section where we have the cockpit windows. Here, of course, I would have wished for some window wipers. That is something that TWC is working on to apply onto future models. As I said, this is a model I picked up at the beginning of the year at the Amsterdam fair. So this model was actually made already last year, so 2024. And that is why it does not have these window wipers just yet. But let's move on to the engine nacelles. They have also been given this lovely dark purple color that we saw on the tail. Here then, of course, we also again have the Air Cairo branding. Furthermore, we have some safety markings applied as well, looking really lovely. The physical detailing is great as always with Herpa's A320 engines. I don't really have anything to complain about here. On the fuselage, just above the wings, we then have the emergency exits added on, and that leads us straight to the wings, which we should definitely also take a closer look at. Here we have the different flap slats and spoilers carved out very nicely. We have some different shades of grey for additional detailing, but then also added by TWC Customs, the markings as to where to walk on the wing, and of course also the markings for the emergency exits. Very lovely work. The underside of the wing then offers us more nice physical detailing and the full registration code of the aircraft. And TWC Customs has also done a lovely work with the winglets, adding again this lovely purple color and the Air Cairo branding. Unfortunately, with Herpa Wings A320 family aircraft models, we do need to check every single model individually when it has these types of winglets, because Herpa is very inconsistent with them. On this aircraft model, I would say on this side it's fine, on the other side actually also pretty nice. So a well-selected donor model from TWC Customs in this case. Now the landing gear, that is of course the standard landing gear that Herpa uses for all the Airbus A320 family aircraft models, which means a fine main landing gear and a totally oversized front landing gear. But a good thing to note here is the fact that TWC Customs has added some printed details here here to the front landing gear. Very nice. Which is also very nice is what we see here on the belly of the aircraft. We have an undisturbed Air Cairo branding. Undisturbed because there is actually a hole in the fuselage here, but TWC Custom has filled it up so that we can enjoy the Air Cairo branding undisturbed. That is lovely work. Which is also nice is the beacon light that TWC Custom has added on top of the fuselage. And then last but not least, we do of course also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on here at the back of the aircraft and here at the front of the aircraft. So there we have it, the Airbus A320-200 in the standard livery of Air Cairo in scale 1:500 from TWC Custom based on a donor model from Herpa Wings. And what can we say about this aircraft model? I mean, personally, I just love this livery, and I mean, okay, yeah, it is bright and purple, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but for me, this is really lovely, and yeah, it just gives something different onto an airport setup, or in real life, of course, at airports. Yeah, a little bit of a colorful dot. That's something I like. If that's something you like, again, that's just down to personal taste. But how has TWC Custom done with this aircraft model? Well, overall, I think he has done an excellent job. We have the colored in parts. That's specifically, of course, the purple parts, so the engines, the winglets, the tail. He has done really well with that. We have some really lovely decals. I do believe they are from Malefiska. We have a high amount of details with them, so safety markings and small hatches and stuff like that all over this little aircraft. So that's really, really lovely work. I do like that, and I really do hope that this will be the minimum standard for future narrow-body releases from either model once they enter the market of narrow-body Scale 500 models in 2026. Apart from that, I mean, we have, of course, the typical issues with the donor model from Herpa Wings. So we have a cockpit shape. However, that is not as bad on this aircraft model as we have seen in others, but I do very much believe that is simply down to the placement and shape of the cockpit windows really doing a lot to this model. We, of course, still have the oversized front landing gear. The winglets is always something you need to check for every single model, but with this model, for example, we don't have the hole in the fuselage because TWC Custom decided to fill it up so that we can actually enjoy the Air Cairo branding on the belly of the aircraft. A decision I very much support. I think that was a very good choice. I love to see that kind of initiative because that was not something I had asked him to do. He just did it on his own. And yeah, as I say, I think that was the right decision to make. And so I would say, apart from the missing window wipers, another little masterpiece out of the factory of TWC Customs. I'm very happy with this aircraft model. Obviously, a model that, yeah, at least with Herpa Wings, there's little to no chance of ever seeing realized by them, and therefore it makes sense to have it as a custom model. But what do you think about this aircraft model? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And while you're at it, why not also tell me if you have a dream model out there that you just don't think will ever be made by, for example, Herpa Wings, and therefore are looking into perhaps having it as a custom model. Share your thoughts in the comment section down below, and of course, leave a like if you like this type of content. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? And with that, it is time to end today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.